Okay, there's more participants. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our BrainFrame Thursday. Today we have an interesting topic, which is salt matrix. And Mr. Johan van Rooyen will take us through that topic. So please relax. If you have any questions, please feel free to lift up your hands towards the end of the session so we address it. Yeah, so thank you very much. Mr. Johan, please take it away.
Hi. Good afternoon. Sorry about that. All right. So today's presentation would be about something that we have developed in our SALT security maturity matrix that we use to do security audits, vulnerability scanning, penetration testing. And what I would like to do is just so that you better understand what we use it for and in which context it will be used, what companies, etc., etc. All right, so I just want to make sure if I share my screen. Just 1 second here. All right, can everyone see my screen there? If you can't, please let me know. All right, so the SALT Security Maturity Matrix. So in short, the reason why we developed it is in the last year and a half that we were busy with developing our security portfolio both based on penetration testing applications, products, brands, etc., etc. We realized one thing in our market, the Namibian market, that we have numerous companies that's too small to do a comprehensive penetration test, so they can't pay. Basically, they can't pay for the big penetration test, and then many times it's not even worthwhile for them to do it. But yet we have to understand that Namibia has a lot of companies with between 10 and 20 users of IT equipment and so forth. And these companies are the majority of Namibia's businesses in Namibia. The other problem we've seen is that organizations lack the necessary maturity, but they also don't know where to start. So it's a very complicated undertaking for them. We've seen, so if I can take an example, we get companies that will phone and say, look, we need to do a penetration test. We don't even know what that means or what needs to happen. We just know we need to do this and we want you to come and do that. Then we have companies that says, we've never started before. Same thing as well as the previous example. Where do we start? We didn't have a clue where to start. And then we see a lot of companies coming out with a tender saying, we want the full spectrum of these tests in the company, outside, vulnerability, penetration testing, device audits, security audits, ISO policies, blah, 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 blah. Quote comes through, 2.5 million for a company of 30 users. They just go, wow, there's no ways we're going to pay for this. So what we've realized is the normal way of penetration testing, the normal way, I wouldn't say in the Western world, of doing security does not always fit into Namibia and into our economy and into our small company scales. So we started to develop our own test, which I'll explain in the next slide. So what is important is there's three different aspects we test. The first one is a vulnerability scan once off on the outside, coupled with a once-off penetration test on the IPs or domains that's available on the internet. Inside of the company, we'll do a spot check on device assets and the security of how these devices are set up. So now we'll look at things like switches, routers, firewalls, computers on the network to get a kind of like a security audit check. Then we'll do the security posture is basically then how are we going to fix this, or the report thereof of these three tests. What is important to understand is this is a situation where this is a company that has never done something like this. So they just want one vulnerability, one pen test, spot checks on the internal equipment to give them an overall view, very high level, but for them to have a starting point of what they need to do. So the offering is we work on 3 security levels. The security level aims to streamline the penetration testing process. This level does not constitute for a complete test. It's not a complete penetration test, nor a security audit, nor a full vulnerability assessment. So bigger companies would say, but this sounds incomplete. Yes, that's exactly what it is. It is incomplete because on smaller companies, this makes sense for them to have an overall understanding of what's going on. There will be the report is 3 distinct risk levels mentioned, and then the framework is there's no specific standard. So we are basing it broadly on ISO 27001, a broad alignment to that. And like I said, it's not PCI DSS, it's not actually ISO 2701, it's not HIPAA, it's not HIPAA 2 standards. So it's basically a combination between a security audit, penetration test, and a vulnerability scan. If somebody's, let me just make sure, if somebody is asking a question, I can't see any of my screen, so please unmute yourself and you can stop me anytime in this presentation if you want to ask a question. All right, so the next slide is high risk. So typically the technology in this environment has no security posture. There's absence of backups, outdated network and infrastructure equipment, old operating system versions with multiple vulnerabilities, lack of policies or implementation of any sort of a document, no established frameworks or standards in place. This is a client that has significant risks. These are also normally the clients that we get that was already had data loss, or that the likelihood of data loss is very, very high. So here, the vulnerabilities is done, pen test is done, device assessment, and then the steps to improve would be then part of the report to say it's a high risk, implement basic security measures, conduct regular vulnerability scans, educate your clients, and start working towards documentation. So this is not a one-size-fits-all, depends from the client. That will give them a way of moving into the low risk, the report to become low risk. The technology environment has a basic security posture, so client possesses some understanding of security and certain components are already established. So this is maybe like there's a firewall, it's a new firewall but not properly set up. It might be that there's a good firewall set up, but the old equipment on the inside. There might be software already that's in place, security software, but it's not really utilized to its full potential and not used fully to its full potential. We see a lot where we get sites where there's dark trace or so on, but nobody actually opens it up. So it's kind of like a white elephant on the side there, sitting there, but it ticked the boxes in the tender. So this is what we then take this security equipment and start utilizing it fully within your network. So in this case, normally at your medium risk, you are there to enhance your policies and procedures, invest in advanced security tools or the existing ones to start monitoring and using it more effectively, and provide ongoing security training for employees. Low risk is where you want to be in these audits or the SALT security maturity matrix, because if you're at this level, the client recognizes the necessity for security measures to be implemented on various levels, and existing frameworks are maybe insufficient at this time, but there's policies already. So we're looking at a client that already has backups, that's relatively new equipment, and efforts to maintain a consistent patching level, security devices installed, although maybe also not fully configured. A certain strategy on vulnerability management is already in place. Network users have a basic understanding of security practices. So these are the IT guys that works there. These are normally companies where there is IT people already, or somebody is actually contracted on a SLA basis, and these guys have an understanding of what's happening, although certain policies are maybe not in place. Applications are there, but not fully utilized. The client is positioned to progress toward a more comprehensive penetration test. So if you are at the low risk, you will get a report to say, fix the following things, in short, fix the following things before you now move into a full penetration test, because you are now very close to being ready for that. Where your high risk is in a situation where, just going back here. So if you're in this situation, going to do a full penetration test is going to really put you on a situation where you have a lot of work to do, a lot of things to set up, a lot of things to change, and it's very much overwhelming at that point in time. So what we are trying to do with this is make life easy, go from high risk into medium risk into low risk. So activities here is again, I'm going to jump to step 2, implement a robust incident response plans, conduct security audits. You're already at this point where you can start doing this, and foster a culture of security awareness. So when you hit low risk, you know you are done with the SALT security maturity matrix. It's not something you're going to have to do again. You will now be moving into a more comprehensive vulnerability scan. You will most probably look at a certain framework, either ISO, PCI DSS, HIPAA standards, depending on the company's industry, to start and really update your security profile. So what we've seen, as we mentioned in the beginning, money is a problem in Namibia to do full pen tests. So we are trying to keep the costs down and low, where we go not per hour, we go at a cost of 350 per actual user or device. This means it should actually say user device. So this is a laptop, PC, the actual device the user works on a daily basis. 250 is for each node device. This is your firewall, your switch, your routers that we look at. These are normally spot checks on age and when last it was updated. So to give you a very good idea of not just from a security point in place, but also what risk are you putting on uptime for yourself. The last one is 1,000 per public domain and or including the public IP. So let's take an example. One domain, 4 public IPs, $5,000 Namibian. So 1 plus the other 4 gives a 5,000 Namibian dollars. And this scales better towards smaller companies and larger companies, but especially your smaller companies that's going to end up with 10 users. We see a lot of the time where there's a smaller company with like 10 users, 2 IPs, 1 domain, and it comes up at like $500,000 to do a penetration test, where this will be much more in the line of 20 to 25,000, and to just make costs so much more attractive. And this puts the smaller companies in a situation to start off somewhere, start to fix some things that needs to be fixed, start to get a alignment from us at SALT to move forward into a more stronger security posture. So this is an entry-level initial engagement to a company or a client. The next steps, if you are at your low risk, is to do a full-blown vulnerability test for comprehensive protection. This is to do vulnerability, penetration test, different policies, etc., etc. Next steps will sometimes be to invest in better hardware, newer hardware, or upgraded security hardware, and then human capital to enhance security posture, so getting training for these companies. So that being said, short and sweet, any questions towards that? Is there any company here that has not done a penetration test yet that might be looking at, starting to look at their security posture? Winston, seeing you are on the call, when are we grabbing you guys the 40 analyzer and the stuff there to bring up your security posture? All right, so no questions. Anyone, any questions maybe further? No questions. All right, then Grace, back to you.
I see there's something in the chat, but it's not a
Oh, I
question.
can't see the chat. Sorry about that. Okay.
It's just Shahid saying, Shahida saying he's on a call and will respond shortly. I'm guessing that's
Oh,
Winston.
I see. All right, all right. No, I was actually
Give you a minute.
joking a bit there with Winston, yeah, because I worked with him on the last time on the security stuff as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Johan, for that presentation. Thank you for everybody that attended. I hope it was insightful. I hope we learned a few things. And if there's any more questions, Mr. Johan is available for questions. You can send us an email. We will send a follow-up uh, email with the recording to the session. And so if you have any questions, we can just hand it over to Mr. Johan. So for that said, thank you so much for joining. Have a pleasant Thursday further. Mr. Johan, is there any closing remarks from you?
From my side, I think if you're a company that never done any pen tests, you don't know where to start, come talk to us about the Salt Security Maturity Matrix. We've assisted small clients that really benefited from what they've seen. It gave them such a good value or high level, the report on a high level basis gave them such a good advantage that they know their work's cut out from them for the next 2 to 3 years. But this gives them a path forward and a vision forward to start moving from the high risk into a low risk scenario.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Johan. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. I see there's a question from Kathleen. How often should one conduct regular risk assessment and threat modeling?
The go-to is actually twice a year for bigger companies, but I would say if you're a smaller company and you have never done any test, if you can start with once a year, even once every 2 years, just start somewhere. And like I said, if you never started anywhere, this Salt Security Maturity Matrix is a very good place to start. A very good high-level overview. So you're not just going to look at things on a security level, but to have a bit of understanding on how old is your equipment, what risk does this equipment pose to you, and this gives you quite the path going forward. Once a year is a good practice. We would like to get companies to that way, but we do know a lot of companies do it when, how can I say, when the problems start, then they only jump to doing these risk assessments, unfortunately.
Okay. She said, thank you, Johan. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you.